Hi, everybody. I'm excited because I wanted to do this, I think it was 6 years ago, but I only have a one-pole tripod thingy, right? A monopod, and we couldn't find anybody to hold the camera. This is Paul.
Hello.
I have huge respect for Paul. He's extremely knowledgeable, and he tells people what he thinks. You don't hold anything back.
Well, no. I mean, once you're coming up from the street, like, what are you going to do to me? So I never understood the hesitancy of organizers and, maybe we shouldn't say that or say this. It's like, what are you going to do to me? I've come from the street, so you ain't going to do worse than that.
Right.
So why not be fearless? Like, what the hell?
That's the word, fearless. I've seen Paul in Washington, D.C. in a mixed room of not just advocates, but suits, and get up and tell everybody to fuck off. I said F before you did.
I got a rep, but I'm from New York, so that's just how we talk. But I feel like I don't say anything different depending on the crowd I'm talking to. Like, if either you're coming at this from a human rights and social justice perspective or you're not. Right. And regardless of the crowd you're talking to me it's insulting as fuck when it's like, when I go to the shelter, I dress this way and I talk about these things. But when I'm at a national meeting, I dress nice and talk about this shit. It's like, why have that pretense?
Right.
And also, you have to then remember what you said depending on who you were talking to.
Right.
The one thing about telling the truth, no matter who you're talking to, is you never have to remember what you said.
Right.
And I've been saying that. I learned it from some others and have been living it for 35 years, and it's absolutely true. Like, just say what you know and what you believe, no matter who you're talking to, and you never have to remember, did I tell this person that, or did I tell this group this? No, I tell everybody the same shit, and I talk about what's documented, I talk about what our members have told me to say, and I don't worry about who I was talking to when I said it. Yeah. Because whatever it is that I'm talking about, whatever it is that I'm saying is going to be the same regardless of who I'm talking to.
Wise words. And I'm not even going to give a disclaimer because you got an idea about this next interview where we're going. First, tell me about yourself, what you do, and then let's start talking about homelessness.
Well, for years, I come up through the homeless program in San Francisco before it was a program. In the January of '83 is when I first hit the street here in the Tenderloin. Got hooked into this amazing organization called Hospitality House, which wasn't a homeless program. It was a community program in the Tenderloin district that their community members, when they would close at 11 o'clock at night, had nowhere to go. And so they said, well, crash here. And it was a crash pad. And they really installed a sense of, and I was 23, 22 in that mix. I had been homeless since I was 16 in New York and then out here. But they instilled a sense of, man, you're lucky. Look at these families, look at these seniors, look at this community, and get over your shit and get involved. And there was no sense of separation between staff and client, and we were all a community. And it really, then from those early days, you saw this institution being the homeless industry come into being. And then in '87, they passed the McKinney Act, and all of a sudden the federal government continued to decimate affordable housing funding and started funding homeless programs. And the mayor's Blue Ribbon Task Force, or whatever the hell they were calling it, Like all of a sudden, the community groups now worked for the government and became service providers. And it scared the hell out of a bunch of us. Like that now, like I used to run a hotel for mentally ill people. I was the supervisor of the hotel for mentally ill people. Today, I'm not even qualified to refer somebody to the hotel I used to run.
We professionalized homeless service.
For no reason except the funding sources dictated that. So as welfare reform kicked in, as Hope 6 kicked in, as all of these other mechanisms to further oppress poor people kicked in, the homeless industry became the point of last resort.
Yeah.
And more, especially with the Hearth Bill, where they redefined family and youth homelessness in order to fund chronic homeless programs. They literally shut down family homeless programs to fund single adult homeless programs so the federal government could say, we're doing housing first.
Right.
And agency after agency after agency went along with it because of the funding dictates. Mayor after mayor went along with it because of the funding dictates, not because anyone believed point-in-time head counts was a smarter mechanism for looking at need than a gaps analysis, where you looked at the gap between supply and demand and you prioritized where the least amount of supply was based on demand. With that system, families were always number one priority. But with the chronic initiative, where you redefine the existence of human beings, all of a sudden single adults became the number one priority. Why? Because they changed the criteria.
Right.
Not because the need changed. And just felt like you need to have non-government funded people and groups and entities that will supply the pushback.
Right.
To that kind of dehumanizing and bureaucratic approach to addressing poverty.
Yeah.
Because really, homelessness is a manifestation of poverty. It's poor people without a home. And so, nothing will ever address homelessness like a home. And if we don't restore the affordable housing funding to pre-1980 funding levels, pre-neoliberal Reagan Revolution funding levels, we're going to continue to have the shit that we see in our streets.
You're the first person that opened my eyes to all this. And, I mean, if you didn't catch all that, you really need to... There's tons of really important nuggets in what Paul just said. Probably to simplify it is, in the 80s, the government stopped funding affordable housing and started funding homeless services. Almost at the same time.
And tripled the homeowners' mortgage interest deduction program at the same time. They commodified, the Reagan Revolution was, and his words were, government can't solve your problems, government is the problem. Trickle-down economics, that's neoliberalism. And it was very clear that we're going to triple our homeownership housing subsidies and eliminate our poor people's housing subsidies, because one is charity and therefore there's no profit for corporate America. The other benefits the mortgage industry, the banks, and the construction industry. Therefore, it's God's gift, and that's the IRS, and that has no cap. Whoever is eligible to receive that subsidy gets that subsidy. With the poor people's housing subsidies, there's screening mechanisms, there's policy mechanisms, there's where were you born, there's have you ever been arrested, there's how many people are living. There's all this, are you worthy? But yet, the poor people's program is $37 billion a year. The home ownership program is $144 billion a year. And money not collected is the same as money spent. You owe me $50, I tell you to keep it, I just gave you $50. That's the housing subsidy programs for homeowners. You ask me for $50, I give you $50, that's the housing subsidy program for poor people. Same freaking difference. But one is charity, and the other is God's gift to economic stimulus, and we put no cap on it. And that was a conscious, thought out, deliberate commodification of housing approach and getting government out of the business of ensuring that poor people have a place to live.
Wow.
That's homelessness in a nutshell. You want to create homelessness, defund affordable housing for poor people, you're going to have homelessness. And then once we end up in the street, are you left-handed? Are you right-handed? Are you drug addicted? Are you mentally ill? Do you have all that bullshit that has nothing to do with, do I have a roof over my head? Because mental illness, substance abuse, education levels, racism, classism, those things all existed before 1982. What didn't exist was the McKinney programs, the emergency shelter programs for the general public. Those things didn't exist. Why? Because there was a funding stream for affordable housing.
That is intentional.
Cause and effect, man. You know, like we make it so goddamn complicated. And now San Francisco set up a whole city department. And we have the Interagency Council on the Homeless and the National Alliance and Corporation for... These guys are making all this money off the shit. How are we ever going to dismantle this? Our goals should be to put all of the homeless programs out of business, not because we hate homeless programs, because we hate the fact that they exist. Yeah. And the more we institutionalize it, the more we professionalize it, the more we're teaching classes about it in MSW schools, the further away we get from actually ending it.
Wow. And I haven't been on the streets here for 6 years. As I travel, every place is getting significantly worse. I mean, you listen to the government, they're having successes, but here, I walk the streets of the Tenderloin, and I don't see a path to how we're going to get these people off the streets. It is there. I've seen things this week that I've never seen in the 300 cities I've traveled. And what you're going to see is, let's create more committees, let's create more, let's do more research, while the people are still out here on the sidewalk.
I think that, I mean, you've been to Skid Row, there's a clear recognition, and unfortunately it took years. The point in time head count was a fallacy. Housing First was an unfunded public relations mantra. It wasn't an actual program. Using the cops to make people disappear is the standard mode of operation. In Skid Row, in San Francisco, in Denver, you have fierce community organizing groups that are not gonna let the cops just make us disappear. And then people walk around and they say, oh, but I see it. Well, good.
You can say it.
But
no.
You know what
Mary
I mean?
said that you're being nice. What happened to the old Paul?
It's like good. You should see it. This is how members of our community are being forced to live.
Yeah.
And homeless people didn't create homelessness. It was not a lifestyle choice where in the early 80s a bunch of us sat around and said, oh, fuck this, I want to sleep in the street. That's not how homelessness goes. So this whole thing of, well, they're there by choice. Well, if your only other option is a gospel mission, fuck yeah, I'm there by choice. But to say that homeless people were around in the early 80s when the HUD budget got wiped out, we weren't in Congress. We weren't voting on that shit. We didn't have all these emergency shelter programs and drop-in centers and navigation centers and one-stop centers and whatever the fuck they want to call them today.
Right.
You know, we keep redesigning the same or moving around the chairs on the deck and calling them a new program.
Right.
To say navigation centers are new, that's just asinine. You know, like, it's a drop-in center. It's a shelter. Just call it what the fuck it is.
It's a bridge shelter.
And
bridge housing.
It's not a solution to the problem. It didn't create. It wasn't lack of cops that created homelessness, yet they're the number one department addressing the issue.
Wow.
It wasn't lack of closed parks that created homelessness, yet we close our parks thinking that's going to make homelessness disappear.
Wow.
So we're putting in all of these supposed solutions that don't address the cause, and we're doing I've had 2 different mayors say to me after reading our without housing report and looking at our PowerPoints and stuff, and say, yeah, I know, yeah, you're right, but that's where we get our homeless funding from, and I'm not going to piss off HUD. Right? And so, but then you look at that poster up there from 1936 from the mayor of New York saying, must we always have this? Why not housing? That's what created what we call HUD today. So mayors need to get off their ass, get pissed off, and defend the rights of community members. They're so much more concerned with how the general public is impacted by the presence of homeless people, and so little concerned with the impact this is having on the homeless people themselves.
Great transition, because and I'm going to use, because you said the NAV Center, bridge housing, they're not solutions. In Hollywood, they built a bridge housing, 72 people, but then they have enforcement zones that are displacing hundreds of people, maybe thousands around that. And how can you, first off, you have a city that arguably, I say, has 80,000 to 90,000 homeless people. The point in time count says around 60,000. And 72 beds? That's not really a solution. Grateful that 72 people are inside, but then you criminalize the whole neighborhood?
Well, after 35 years, I'm sick of baby steps, Like we're talking baby steps. 72, okay, fine, whatever. But it's not going to replace the $54 billion a year that's been eliminated from federal affordable housing funding.
How much?
And $54 billion using 2004 constant dollars. It's the equivalent of $54 billion a year in affordable housing funding. And that doesn't even include the U.S. Department of Agriculture rural housing programs.
Right.
So when you couple the rural housing programs, which used to build 30,000 units a year that doesn't even exist anymore, and you look at the $54 billion in affordable housing funding through HUD, you're talking massive contemporary homelessness. So, this housing first mantra, or bridge housing, or back in the day they called it transitional housing, and then they call it something else. It's like you keep changing the name, and then the fucking media reports about it as if it's a new initiative. And you think that you can convince people the problem's solved. Now, maybe there's other social aspects where you can get away with that shit. Oh, look, it's a clear sunny day. Climate change doesn't exist. Whatever. It's raining and Trump says, you see, it's all bullshit. There is no climate change. Or, freedom gas or whatever the fuck. Maybe you can play that game with that stuff. But the existence of human beings having and being forced to live in public spaces, you can only hide that for so long. Remember, for a while, Giuliani and broken windows policing, you would have thought there were no more homeless people in New York City. You walk around Manhattan now, and it's like, well, shit, I guess they're back. They didn't go away. They hid from the cops.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And then you add the business improvement districts and the massive control they have in public spaces now, and homeless people are spending more time hiding and shuffling and moving and being bounced around, that I just can't believe that our public education around the issue is so lacking.
Right.
In looking at what caused the shit in the first place, so that we can actually finally... It reminds me of like when you have a leaky pipe in your home, and you keep painting over the water damage that is exposed through the drywall. And you wonder why the water damage just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Painting over this shit isn't going to solve it.
Right.
And we need to actually get to the human aspects of it and think about housing as a human right.
Yeah. Let's talk about what you're doing now with RAP, the criminalization, And I'll segue that with our friend at LA Can, Pete White. He talks about the criminalization that's going on in LA is really psychological warfare. That you're trying to tire out people so that they'll go someplace else, but there's no other place to go. I mean, in Venice Beach, it's illegal to sleep on the beach at night. It's illegal to sleep on the streets during the day. So every day, 7 days a week, homeless people have to take their stuff from side to side to side to side to side. If it wasn't so sad, it would be comical that humans are being forced to do that. And the only logical reason is psychological warfare that I can think of.
I mean, we did the Right to Rest Act to finally, once and for all, and by we I mean LA Can and all of the other member groups of RAP. And we've been running that bill in Colorado, Oregon, and California, and it's based on 1,600 outreaches to houseless and other community members. Standing still, sitting down, and sleeping were the top 3 criminal offenses people are being charged with. Criminal offenses.
But who's being charged?
Homeless and community members.
If you're standing outside of an Apple...
SRO, if you're standing outside of a whatever.
Right.
You know, like if you look poor and homeless...
That's where I was going.
In a cop's mindset or in a business improvement district security guy's mindset, if you look like one of them...
Right.
They're going to fuck with you.
And if you don't look like one of them, you get a pass.
And, yeah, if you're shopping, you sure as fuck.
If you're standing outside for a new iPhone at the Apple store, laying overnight for a Justin Bieber ticket, you know what I mean? You can do it. But if you're poor or look poor, you get a ticket.
And we're talking about sitting on a sidewalk. I have yet, in all the years we've been tracking this stuff and running this legislation and doing the ballot initiative in Denver and stuff, I have never seen a family of shoppers with the little kids eating ice cream get a ticket for sitting on the sidewalk. And our argument isn't that they should.
Right.
Our argument is nobody should.
Right.
That this is public space. We are members of the public, whether we're housed or unhoused, whether we're poor, whether we're black. We went back and looked at Jim Crow, Anti-Okie, Sundown Towns, Basurero Treaty, Japanese American Exclusion Act, ugly laws. Like, this country, since the days we colonized it, has a long history of targeting segments of the community, using laws that you know they're going to break. Everybody's going to stand still. Everybody's going to sit down. Everyone's going to sleep. Everyone's going to eat. If you make those criminal offenses in public spaces, you can target your enforcement against those you want to hassle the fuck out of so they'll get out of town. And there's no difference between the old days when there were signs, and I have copies of it, we've used it in our shit. Hey, Jap, this is Roseville, California. Don't let the sun set on you here. What's the difference between that and sit-lie laws? Except the sign. You know, and it's like if standing still, sitting down, laying down, and sleeping are illegal, and with UC Berkeley, with Seattle University, with Denver University, with the ACLU in Oregon, on average in each state we study, in our member states, there's 11 laws on the books. As soon as you stop walking, can be used against you to criminalize your presence.
Wow.
On average. So, like, how is that not a sundown town? Right. As soon as you stop walking, and then fucking LA being LA, we're using jaywalking like crazy.
Well, in some communities like Glendale, it's illegal to smoke outside. Who gets the ticket?
And Boulder, Colorado, 78% of the people that got smoking tickets in public spaces were homeless people.
Right. I've never seen...
I guess we're the only ones that smoke.
I've never seen a hipster crossing the street smoking get a ticket. But if you're a homeless person, the cops come in, and it's $75.
And in these state hearings that we've been having, the cops call it, well, we need these tools to help them. And somehow...
Wait. They need to arrest them to help them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't mean to laugh.
It's this mindset of, and that's where you hear words like service resistant or chronic. Like, it's this mindset that these people are dysfunctional human beings and that's why they're in the street. And, we're going to use the jails to help them. And you've heard this in mental health for years. The whole thing with San Francisco and other cities using bus tickets and calling it housing placements. And documenting that we housed...
I don't mean to laugh.
We housed... No, this shit's ironic as fuck, man. But we housed 2,000 homeless people in San Francisco last year, but 1,600 of them were bus tickets, right? So...
They cooked the books.
They cook the books, they cook the framing, they cook everything. But when you think back to Greyhound therapy, any mental health professional will tell you Greyhound therapy has been around since deinstitutionalization.
Right.
And the easiest thing for mentally ill people to get for a long time was a one-way bus ticket out of town. We're doing the same thing with homelessness today, and for the same reason.
Yeah.
Because we didn't address the issue of residential treatment for indigent, mentally ill people. We gave people bus tickets. We're not addressing the issue of housing for people that are poor. We're giving them one-way bus tickets or a ticket to jail or a ticket to fines, and we're confiscating their vehicles because now you're really going to get out of town. Yeah. We just took all your shit from you. We're confiscating their belongings and throwing their shit away as if it was just crap when it's somebody's personal belongings. But, it's garbage because it belongs to you. And we're just going to throw it away. And if that doesn't motivate you to get out of town, then we'll come up with more extreme measures. And that's where we see the vigilante shit growing. We see the cops working with vigilante groups, locals on patrol, crime busters, Take Back Santa Cruz.
I know. So I know of it, the vigilantes in Portland.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's growing in other cities?
Oh, hell yeah. Portland's not, like LA, San Fernando Valley, they have a thing called Crime Busters. It's actually run by somebody who's a volunteer at the local police department, a senior citizen that's a volunteer with the local cops. So local cops are all over it. Eureka had locals on patrol. They were somebody's RV, nobody knows who did it. Somebody's RV got lit on fire telling them to get the fuck out of town. No, this shit's growing. And you look back at the Grapes of Wrath type crap. This is not... that's what's so frustrating.
Yeah. So I should have put the camera on manual focus. I didn't know Paul was so animated with this. No, you're fine. And so this is a really powerful interview. If we're going in and out, just pretend you had one too many beers or you something.
Or not enough beers.
Yeah, because there you go. Everything he said is so important. Who cares if we go in and out of focus if it's soft? Lesson learned on my part. And you're fine. You're animated. Be yourself. Yeah. Paul's always going to be himself. Tell us about rap and what you're doing. I mean, no, he's sitting on his hands. Tell us about rap.
About 2005, so 13 years ago, a group of us with people at groups in New York, in Atlanta, in Chicago, in San Francisco, in LA. We put together a proposal to create regional offices of the national campaign, National Coalition for the Homeless. For whatever reason, no diss, but they decided they didn't want to set up this structure. The groups that I had been talking to out here said, so we'll do it anyway, whether we're part of a national office or not. The idea of having organizations that base their work in street outreach and community forums, that come from the community, that are part of the community, that are social justice warriors, hooking up with each other and having, I like to joke that we're the ALEC of poor people's groups. We do the research, we get the artwork put together, we do the reports, we do the messaging, the fact sheets, like we're doing with business improvement districts right now. all of those things that all of our members have in common, the gentrification and displacement, the lack of access to affordable housing, and the criminalization. Whether you're Sisters of the Road doing a cafe in Portland, whether you're Sacramento Homeless Organizing Committee, whether you're the San Francisco Coalition or LA Can, they all do different approaches to their work, but they all are based in a social justice, anti-displacement, anti-gentrification, anti-criminalization mindset. And they're trying to preserve their sense of community. And, we all believe strongly that you can gentrify the living conditions in a community without displacing the people that live there. And so on those issues, we have a common thread through what we're doing. And those areas where we have a common thread are the areas where we focus on as RAP. And so RAP does the Without Housing Report. RAP does the vagrancy reports in all of our states with the law schools there. RAP wrote the legislation that was introduced in the states. We do the fact sheets. We do the social media work. And Lord knows we do the artwork. And then you go to LA and you see this poster and you think, wow, that's cool. And then the next day you're in Seattle and you see the same poster. Like, you start to get a sense that maybe there's something going on here. Maybe these groups are communicating with each other. If you see it in San Francisco, you see it in LA, you see it in Portland, you see it in Denver, you start to see that these are all organizations that work together in a social justice campaign to fight the shit that we're up against.
And one thing,
and we can party like crazy. So,
you do outreach to homeless people, and that's not just going out with empty promises in a granola bar. You're out there listening, trying to get them to organize people on the streets.
Well, I mean, and to be clear, RAP doesn't. The RAP members do.
Okay, yeah.
And they were doing that long before we started RAP. And it's, I always say when people come up and whether they've been homeless or not, like, they say, we think this. I want to know who we is. Like, I see you standing there, but who's we?
Right.
And when you can pull out 1,600 street outreaches and say, document it, and say, this is we. This is the we we're talking about. And you create your organizing agenda off of the responses that you get from the outreach. Last year, we really focused one of our meetings, our face-to-face meetings, on how the different myriad of ways, I like that word, myriad, mybrid I used to call it, but the myriad of ways that, there's outreach for passing out information, there's outreach for gathering information, there's outreach to tell people about shit that's going on. Like, there's different ways in which you communicate. The key is you don't sit in a fucking office when you're concerned with the issues of people that have no housing and claim
that should
to
be a
speak
t-shirt.
on
That
that
should
community.
be a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't sit.
To us, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
Like, to us, it's like, well, I am engaged in, I come from, I'm part of a community of people that have no housing. I'm not going to sit in my fucking home all day. I'm not going to sit in an office all day waiting for them to come to me.
Yeah.
And even with the community forums, I'm not going to just base our shit, our input, our feedback, our direction on the people that come to my meetings, because the people that come to my meetings are going to be people that already agree with our shit.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
We're going to go out and talk to people that may think we're full of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to, not worry about the feedback that we get, because the feedback that we get is from the people that are in the community where we're based.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do cop watch, you can't sit in your office and wait for somebody to call you to say the cops are fucking with me. You got to be out there in the streets. You got to be out there in your community, observing what's going on and being a part of what's going on. And to us, it's just like common sense.
Right.
It wasn't,
Right.
and that's where I'm so proud of the member groups that I work for. This isn't like, oh, we learned this from Saul Alinsky or, this isn't book taught shit. we come from the community that we're talking about. So being out in the streets, hanging out with that community is just logic.
Right. How can people advocate? How can people support you? What can people do to end homelessness, stop criminalization, and how can they support RAP and their member communities?
Well, I'll tell you, like our website, because of the fact that we're in different states and in different cities, is not your, oh, give us money and download this report. All of our information is free. All of our artwork can be downloaded for free. Everything we have up there is available for free for people to use. So,
and there'll be a link in the description.
And the Without Housing, what the first thing we did was about how did we get into this place. So whether it's, you know, the website has updated numbers, but the analysis, how did we get to this fucking point? And we didn't release the first one until 2006, so homelessness had already been around for a long time. And our Right to Rest and Homeless Bill of Rights campaign is really current and up to date. And get that information. And you can download in English and Spanish the report. You can download the outreach forms. You do the community-based outreach. You contact us. We'll help you collate it and be able to give you back information for your city, as well as tie your information into the national campaign.
Very cool.
So, like, it's a information-based website that also happens to have amazingly kick-ass artwork on it.
Yeah. Well, I love the artwork because I'm an old punk from the New York hardcore days, and it reminds me every band had stickers. Every band had this type artwork, and it just.
Well, it's the same thing like with our demos and shit. Like, it's gotta be a celebration. It ain't a revolution if you can't dance to it. And it's not a demonstration if it doesn't have street theater and creative energy. Like, yeah, we're getting our asses kicked, but we're really good at it at this point. And
I don't mean to laugh.
And we can have, like, our gatherings should be celebrations of our power and our accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And our demonstrations should be street-based theater activities. Gosh. Who wants to go and hear a speech about why you should be at the demo? You're already at the demo. So make it a party. Make it something where the person leaves with a smile on their face and might invite the next person, might invite some friends and say, no, actually, that shit's fun. Right. And, it can be a serious issue. It is a serious issue. It can be a determined fight, but make it artistic. Make it brilliant. Make it lively and creative, and you'll attract a lot more people to the revolution.
Very cool. Well, I could talk to you all day. You're awesome. I have huge respect for you and what you're doing and your member communities or your member.
Yeah, I rep some kick-ass fucking groups. I got the best job in the world.
Please, if you're out there, your voice matters. Criminalization is a waste of money, and it does absolutely nothing to help end homelessness. And if we don't advocate for more affordable housing, it's just going to get worse.
We're missing the boat. Yeah.
It's just going to get worse. So thank you, everybody. Apologize if the focus went in and out a little bit, but this is an important conversation. It's more about the content than being produced. So thank you. Please share. Love you guys.